the high school, the high school committee. It's March 14th, 2024. The public can also access this meeting via WebEx technology. The Burlington High School Committee will hear public comments in person and virtually. Meetings are also broadcast live on Burlington Cable Access, and video recordings are being made. The meeting of the Burlington High School Building Committee will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any subject item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. If you are participating remotely, please identify yourself by typing your name on the screen in advance and verbally once you are identified to speak. We request that you please turn on your camera. Comments and statements are limited to 3 minutes. Again, this is a combined meeting of the Burlington High School Building Committee and the Burlington School Committee. If you want to to participate remotely, the ID is 2332-594-6973, and the password is Burlington. We are now going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so I just want to make a reminder to everyone that since this is a joint meeting, the people who will be voting on the finances are going to be just the school committee members. And we're going to go ahead and approve the February 8th, 2024 meeting minutes. And do I have a motion?
So moved.
One change, we missed one attendee, which we changed.
Okay. Yes, yeah, thank you. Yep.
Second.
Okay. And since we have Martha remote, I'm going to take a roll call on the minutes. Ms. Simon? Aye. Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Ms. Chen is absent. Dr. Conti? And we have an absent for Melissa and Catherine Bond. And as the chair, I'm an aye. So we have...
You didn't call on me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris Monaco.
Aye.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4, 0, 0. Okay. The next vote is going to be for invoices. And do you want to go ahead and just have someone read off the invoices so everyone can take a peek? And
Yep, the one invoice that we have for this past month is for Doran Whittier, and it's for $18,000.
okay, and is it going to? It's displayed now. Okay.
It is.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And again, a reminder that it's only the school committee members who will be voting on this. Ms. Simon.
Yes.
Mr. Brooks.
Aye.
And Ms. Massardo is absent. Ms. Monaco.
Aye.
And the chair is an aye, so it is 4-0-0. Okay. And the next is public comment. I don't see anybody in the audience. Anyone with their hand up online? Okay.
Yeah, so thanks, Catherine. Obviously, Tepe's here. I'm just going to turn this over to these guys. We're super excited you guys are here. Look forward to, they're going to walk us through kind of near-term, medium-term, and then longer-term goals in a schedule format. And, you know, I think they will welcome questions, so please don't, this is an interactive session, and it's kind of certainly how I like to conduct meetings, and you know, we're a team, and so if we need to debate things, just it's an open forum. So look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. So thank you very much.
I'm David Gould, and I'll be the project manager on the project. So you'll be seeing a lot of Chris and I.
So with that. Examine what's here right now. That'll be the first steps that we take, and we're going to be looking to get into the building probably over April vacation extensively, even some nights and weekends leading up to that, as we prepare to get the building scanned and all the things we need to do to get accurate layouts of what's here. From there, we'll launch into some programming exercises, which will be fun. I love doing those. They're similar to, maybe some of you have the experience of doing some programming on the Fox Hill. This is going to be similar to that, but quite different because it's a high school, and so it's a whole different range of things that we cover and topics that we do. We'll be in touch with the committee about those, the people who will be on that and be involved in that and sort of leading up to that. You can see we've targeted some of that starting in sort of late April. And so as we get closer to that, we'll be in touch on the things that we need in order to make those go well. That really sets the stage for the preliminary design program. I think part of the meeting tonight is establishing and sort of agreeing on that enrollment number. That's going to be a big driver on how we determine appropriate size and planning for the long term. And so that's going to be one of the first things we really need to hone in on and get clarity for. Part of this package, I think, we have the next couple pages show.
Do you want me to?
You can keep going, yeah. So the next one is a PSR schedule. That's the next phase after we finish the PDP, and what we're doing on that is really kind of driving into the concepts that you're going to see during PDP. We're going to develop a bunch, I don't know how many, and then we'll start to knock some off, attack others further. Maybe there's like variations like an A to B of certain schemes. But that's where we start to drill in on those schemes, and the goal by the end of PSR is to really get into and establish what the preferred project is from the town. So by the end of PSR, that's going to be our goal. That's our trajectory. And then we launch into schematic design, which would be this next one. And that's really, it's at this point, it's kind of far out there. And so we just kind of put out a broad sweeping line that says during this time we're doing schematic design, and there's a lot that goes into that. But once we get there, we can flush out a more detailed schedule for how that works. But the big important takeaway is that as we sort of launch into it and get our feet going on the ground, is that we're going to get engineers in the building and start examining what we have to work with right here, and then start to layer in all the other components. So I don't know if there's any big questions on any of that.
Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, we've had some recent folks in doing some systems work. Is that work that we can hand over? We own that. You gave away your microphone.
Sorry, so through the chair, of course, thank you. But yes, Dr. Conti, so we have done a HVAC feasibility study, which was shared with Doran Whittier, so I'm assuming they will share it with you. I also can share that with you as well. Also, as part of that HVAC study was a accessibility and codes review, and also a building structure review. So I think there's some pertinent information that obviously will assist this project.
And again, I just have a list of dumb questions, so I'm just trying to get them over with. And don't mean to ignore you, but Bob, we have solar panels on the roof here with a contract. I'm assuming that was going on for 25 years, right? Is that?
So in 2017, we signed a PPA agreement for the solar panels that are on this roof and Marshall Simons. It's a 20-year PPA. So we are not tied into the building. All of our earned solar turns into credits that come back on our bill. But yes, those are on the roof. We do have a 30-year Firestone roof that was replaced 9 years ago, so 21 years left on that roof. You know, I can keep elaborating, but I think
No, but obviously, the, whatever we do, do we own the panels, or do they own the panels and we're just getting the credits?
so. It's agreement that the company owns the panels. They are leasing our rooftop to use the panels. We share in the credits that are generated from the panels. If we need to take them off and do any repairs and so forth, there's some contract language for that. So if we needed to pause any of those credit generations, you know, we could do that. But the goal long-term for those is to keep them online and earn as much credits as we can for both that company and ourselves for the remainder of that contract.
Right. So we have solar panels already. And again, I have a list. Madam Chair, is that okay? Has this site been surveyed in a while? Because I know when we've done some projects, it comes up where the site has changed since the building was built in terms of expansion of wetlands and wetlands plants. And I know when we did the track, we have, I think, one of the only uphill wetlands in the state. I mean, it's incredible. This lot is
Unique.
Yes.
Very unique. So again, if I can expand on that, so we just recently performed a 600-page document with Nezra Engineering, which reviewed not only the Burlington High School, but also other properties in town, which assess all of our athletic fields. So it does look at the wetlands, it looks at where our flood zones are. So we do have that as recent data, which we can share as well.
I think having all of this data would be incredibly helpful to us and to our team. Part of our scope is actually to do a site survey. So we will be doing, we're going to have sort of 4 kind of outside consultants who are part of under the umbrella of our contract. One of them is site survey, and that includes wetland flagging. But we'd love to have this data because they're always interested to see what's already kind of been done and whether it confirms their assumptions. We're going to have a preliminary geotechnical exploration done. Of course, it can't focus yet on, and they do a pretty much scattershot approach initially just to know what the lay of the land is under grade. We'll have a ACM survey done, which is asbestos containing materials. You may have ERA reports from every year. If you do, that would be wonderful to have. They'd like to have that. And then we're going to have a traffic study done. So the traffic study will be an existing conditions report, which will say, we counted cars, this is how many cars are coming in and out, this is how many parking spaces you have, et cetera, et cetera. And then when we get, as Chris described, to the PSR, which is the preferred schematic report, which is, sorry for the nomenclature, this is all MSBA nomenclature. It's really sort of the first phase is fact-finding, that's the PDP. The second phase is PSR, that's coming to a conclusion on what the option is, and then the third is schematic design, which is developing the option. But we use these MSBA nomenclatures. But anyway, so all of those are on work we're going to complete.
What did ACM stand for again?
Oh, I'm sorry, asbestos containing material. Forgive me.
Yeah, and so, Dr. Conkey, just so you know, a lot of the documents that Bob's talking about have been shared. That's a new document, the one that you just referenced, that I don't think I've seen.
field study.
Right, but we've shared that with these guys, so that's all part of their diligence, working with their consultants, and so they have all that.
And I know it's very early in the process, and this is sort of way down, but I know that the color of these walls is a favorite of Mrs. Monaco. So I said you really enjoy the color of these walls, so if they could build them into this project.
Yeah, Rachel, can you make sure that's reflected in the minutes? That'd be great.
It's called sea haze.
Okay, Benjamin Moore?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got it.
Green's my favorite color,
Sea haze.
in case you were wondering.
Big day on Monday.
Sunday.
I think that's what we have, and we can go to the enrollment.
Yeah, no, I think one thing that we don't need to discuss tonight, but I want to plant in folks' minds is, you know, we're all aware of the capital projects that are in town. There's a lot of discussion going on, obviously with Steve and the rest of the Doran Whittier team on Fox Hill. There's the police station. There's this project. And, you know, I think it started to be disseminated in terms of what Ways and Means are thinking, in terms of recommendations to the town, in terms of what approvals should be obtained on various projects. That may or may not impact our schedule. The schedule that we've discussed with TAP-A is the same schedule that we presented to you, kind of with our view of how we thought things would play out. That's not set in stone, but it's something that I think we should spend some time thinking about and talking about probably the next meeting, because that will potentially impact their workflow, not so much in these first 8 months, but more schematic design and when do we want to potentially put something in front of the town. And so I'm just cognizant that we're not working in a vacuum. So I just leave that as a note so that people will read that, and I'll probably put it on the agenda for the next meeting, if that makes sense.
Madam Chair, Terry, if you wouldn't mind adding to that, because we're also applying to the MSBA. We're submitting the high school as our primary statement of interest. Is that?
This microphone's not working, so I'll pick up or I'll have to just project my voice. So the window for MSBA statement of interest is open right now.
Right.
And we are preparing a high school one. Obviously, that will come before the school committee for approval. And obviously, if the school committee does support that, then yes, we'll put that forward. If there's an opportunity for another school project, please let me know. But as of right now, what I'm aware of would be the high school.
So I do think it's important that we follow the MSBA sort of nomenclature as best we can. Obviously, we don't need board approval along the way, which is save us some time. But I know it may not happen after 12 attempts, but I still think we should continue to try. But it's up to the school committee eventually, but that's coming up though for part of our timeline.
Bob, can you tell who that is? Is that
It's Martha.
Yes,
It's April 6th, right? Is that the date, or 10th?
12th.
12th, sorry.
am I up? Hello?
Is that who's speaking? Is that
Martha.
Yes.
Okay. Again, I'm hearing a lot of people saying this is early and we're going to look at it. But so that one of the issues I'm concerned about looking forward is that in the various presentations we heard, I thought I heard one of the designers, and I don't honestly remember which one it was, say that when the flood zone was changed, that there was less property involved in the flood zone. So I just want us to be really sure that we have a completely up-to-date wetland delineation and flood zone, because we all know that the floods are coming. So I just want to alert everyone to that we want to be really careful with that, because if, 50 years from now, we don't want the building underwater. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Any other questions?
Comments?
No? Okay. Just moving on. So I put this in here, and the guys mentioned this about enrollment projection, and this really is the number that the MSBA typically comes down, and I think many of you are familiar with this on Fox Hill. It drives the space summary. The space summary drives the square footage. Square footage drives cost of the building. And certainly for the last years that I've looked at the SOI, that number has been 950. I've left this blank for now. What I will say is that if the SOI is going to go in on the 12th and it's going to say 950, my recommendation would be to go with the 950. But that's ultimately up to all of you, and I don't know if that number is changing. Um,
So I guess I had a question. I know we kind of talked a little offline. Are you, Dr. Conti, comfortable with 950 based on the numbers that you've been looking at over the years, or should we up it to 1,000? I mean, I realize 50 isn't a lot, but, you know, do we round up?
I'll go back and review that, Terry. I think we have NESDEC do our projections every year, and I think 950 would suit us maybe from where I look out is the next 10 years, but sitting here, you know, the building was open with 2,000 students, and so that's sort of my concern, but I think you would have to think about that in terms of, you all design them with expandability, you know, potential or something, right? So we'd have to look at that, but, and then when the program document comes, the square footage might also be impacted. And again, we don't have to worry about not, you know, reimbursable or non-reimbursable space, right, at this point. If you all want to include the local cable TV station and an integrated preschool, which currently exists in this building, then I think that would change the enrollment numbers as well. So there's going to be a high school enrollment and then a programmatic enrollment. Plus, we have collaborative programs here through Lab. So,
I actually, you know, would welcome Charlie, Chris, David, your opinion on this. You know, I think the number is likely for the high school enrollment is going to be 950. There are these other elements that are there. You know, I think there's a desire to have as much space as possible, but at the same time, I think we need to be realistic. And if the number is 950 on enrollment, and we also understand that there's going to be a big push to keep these non-educational programs going forward, that at least is a stake in the ground. And the 950 number becomes a stake in the ground, so that when we eventually move into schematic design and we're putting that design forward, we're not coming back to say, well, wait a second, we would like this.
no, right. That's why I think the program document is so important, because the high school is also the hub for the maintenance shop. So, Neil, you take a certain amount of square feet, and I'm assuming if they do maintenance for the entire district, so they're maintaining 1 million square feet roughly from, what, 2 small spaces here that I'm sure you would redesign differently if you had the opportunity. But that square footage that we need, that wouldn't necessarily be reimbursable. I don't really know that, if that's the case. Bob, the kitchens are also stocked. Don't you have a sort of a distribution freezer here at the high school?
So we have approximately 11,000 square feet of central office, 11,000 square feet of BECC, 4,500 square feet of BCAT, 4,000 square feet of maintenance, district IT. We have a district freezer here. So it's a dedicated 1,500 square foot room and almost 800 square foot freezer. We have a large loading dock that handles a 53-foot trailer, 18-wheeler, so we can, you know, take full deliveries here in a distribution warehouse where we can take all of our maintenance custodial supplies and even district papers and so forth. And then we have a box truck where we distribute them to a lot of our schools. So again, not a typical high school, but more of a central district hub is located here on this property.
Yeah, I'd say if we can get to that stake in the ground on what the high school enrollment is, it's one thing that we can sort of set down for a minute and then go after all these other programs, right? And so if we don't do it now, at some point, we're going to be asking you what that enrollment is, because that will be one of the biggest drivers of square footage, but all these other things come into play. And we'll individually grab that data as we go and say, okay, what's the central distribution like, and what's the, you know, preschool like, and what's the admin like, and all that stuff. And we'll do those on an individual basis, but we just need to know what that baseline high school number is, because there's a lot of program inside of that we need to deal with. So,
I mean, I think these other items, the MSBA probably wouldn't prohibit you from building. They simply, as you know from Fox Hill and other projects, they would simply say, we're not going to participate. But they won't stop you. So I think you need to put the programs in place that you want to have in place in your high school, and MSBA or not MSBA, and not worry that the MSBA, if you did in fact end up with an MSBA project, I don't think they'd stop you from having a cable TV studio. They wouldn't stop you from having a central kitchen or 1,500 square foot freezer.
Yeah. Well, that
Big freezer.
right. So that was one of the concerns I had, because when we had asked for extra space that the town wanted to pay for, say extra classrooms, it was either we went with their number of classrooms and we got the funding, or if we wanted to add classrooms at our expense, we were told they wouldn't move forward with the program with us at all. So I want to make sure that we are clear, that with the high school, that these other programs are extremely important. And if we, let's say MSBA actually approves us, after 12 years, that we now all of a sudden aren't being told we can't have, BCAT in the preschool program and all these other, as you said, we're the central hub, for a lot of situations in town, and we don't want to cut that off either.
Right.
And I know there are two other people who have comments too.
Can I just respond to that?
Yeah, you go ahead and respond to that, and then I'll get to the other two.
A
people with
recent
questions,
project that certainly Dorn Whittier has worked on the architect side is the school where my kids went to school. And district offices were there, superintendent's offices were there. The town chose to do work on those. The MSBA doesn't stop you from doing that. They're just not going to contribute. And I think that's what Chris is saying, is that they're not going to preclude you from doing something that's non-educational, right? And so that's how we ought to approach it. But I do think that, the stake in the ground on enrollment is an important number for all of us.
Okay, I'm going to take Ms. Monaco and then Mr. Brooks.
So if by some miracle SBA decided to help us out, they're going to have very rigid enrollment numbers. And so no matter what we pick, it isn't going to matter. We're going to have to use theirs. One thing that I picked up was, if we talk about educational versus non-educational uses in the building, the preschool is educational. It's our only place where we have an integrated preschool. So it is, in many ways, as vital to this community as the high school itself. I mean, that is not something we can say, oh, well, we don't need that anymore. So I think what we're doing is we're planning, knowing we don't have SBA money. But on the other hand, we're trying to plan as if we did have SBA money. And I don't think that that's going to necessarily work real well. I mean, I think we need to figure out what our enrollment is most likely to be, assuming give and take, it'll grow, it'll fall. I don't know what's going on with housing around the town. There's a lot of talk about new housing coming in because of all the office space and redevelopment and all of that. So I'll cross my fingers on SBA, but I don't think the chances are real good, especially while we have an outstanding project. It's my understanding that they won't touch it while we've got one going. So that's my input.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since this is our project, I'd like to advocate that we approach this project for our numbers the way we see it. I'd like to take a deliberate, data-driven decision versus this is all good conversation. But for the benefit of the committee, I think it would be helpful for everyone to see, hey, here's the most likely, here's the least likely. Give us a couple of options to chew on with some data behind it and some backup to understand the vote we're going to make for this number. Because once we put this number in stone, it's going to drive everything from here on, and it's a kind of critical decision. I think we should be a little more deliberate in the way we do that. Thank you.
You meant the enrollment number? Correct. Okay, I just want to make that clear. Okay, and Ms. Simon, I can't see a hand up or anything. Do you have any other question or comments?
Anyone else in the online?
My big question is how are we getting the 950? And the reason I ask is this was very good. Fox Hill, just looking off of the Dusty profile last 5 years, our average is 997 over 5 years. So for enrollment at the high school. So I guess how are we getting the 950 so that's very clear if that is the number, so that people really understand that.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. And, that's what I'm trying to say, that I wasn't 100% sure that the 950, and I don't know, do we want a little more time to look at some of the numbers, Dr. Conti, from, what we have feeding in from elementary, middle, and, I don't know what form, are we going to try and use the same formula as MSBA?
No.
Or we're just going to do our own thing?
No, yeah. The reason I say no is the MSBA formula is very complex. Again, I can, Terry, I'll get you the NESDEC projections that we have out. And so that's what we're using for
Yeah,
our
no, I
statement
think if
of
you can
interest.
do that and we can look at that and come up with, an objective, this is the data that we looked at and come to a decision, I think the point that I think collectively we're trying to make is the sooner we put that in the ground. So I think if we can get that in the course of the next couple of weeks and we can analyze it as a team and come up with a recommendation that's endorsed by the school and your advisors and present that at the next meeting with a motion, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
I don't want to rush into it. That's
No,
why, so we don't have to
but
take any vote
it's just,
tonight.
I think, that, in talking to the guys and within our shop, it's just super critical to come to that determination, and so it will help us.
NESDEC's a well-respected organization. I think, it's a very good place to start. The other thing we probably want to know is what your projected pre-K enrollment is, which is a little bit different.
Can you move closer to the mic just so that people
I'm sorry.
remotely can hear you? I know it's hard. Just-
It would be good also to, at some point, make a decision on pre-K. And pre-K is a little different, right? Because unless you have universal pre-K, if you have tuition-based pre-K, or if you have half-day versus whole day, that all goes into how many classrooms you need. So it would be useful to start to think about that population as well.
Ms. Monaco.
That's pretty much what I was about to say.
Sorry.
That's great. I like having backup. It's such an important program that I think as we go forward, assuming that this is our project, like Jeremy said, and we may never get SBA help for it, this is the time to make sure that we have the facility in this building adequately prepared for what we need. And I think what we have currently is, numbers-wise, it's probably less than adequate. We could fill up a whole bunch more classrooms with children that need preschool or want preschool.
Thank you. Any other, Terry?
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I think we can move on.
All righty. We'll table the numbers until the next meeting, and we'll get some more solid information, and we'll get back to you.
Great.
All right. Sounds good.
This timeline is something that I've put it in our monthly reports. This is the actual timeline that we at Doran Whittier provided you during the interview as part of our proposal. It is not too dissimilar. The TAP A team and our team got together and went through this. I think, the big thing that's in our mind, we are using PDP, PSR, schematic design. I think the way Charlie described it is kind of the better way of looking at it, but we're all so used to using those terms, and I think everyone here is reasonably familiar with them. It is targeting this fall town meeting, and I think that is something that we will address as we get through this. It doesn't change this near and medium term work that TAP A and others will be tackling. So what I intend to do is to take their schedule, kind of blow this out, and that will be what you see going forward. And when we look at schedule and timeline, I think most importantly, critically, is understanding, you mentioned days or weekends leading up to the April break. We will work with Bob. Bob will make sure that we have access. I'm sure that there's probably programming going on in April in the school during break. Is that a reasonable understanding? Will there be, there's sports teams, the building will be open and there'll be people doing things in it apart from what we do, correct?
Yeah, so let me just double check the calendar, but I think there's one holiday in there where the
Okay.
Schedule it, but the remaining 4 days, yeah, the building will be open.
Right. What I'm wondering is there going to be programming of any kind in the building? Right. That's what I figured. So we just have to coordinate how we go about doing that. So that's really the purpose of this slide.
Okay. Great. And
Oh,
next.
This is me. This is me again. The
Website.
the BHS building project is this website is live now, and I encourage all of you to visit it if you haven't already. I need to check with the school. Dr.
Conti,
Conti,
I'd ask to have the link added to the high school like it is for Fox Hill Project so that people can go to the high school and click on the link.
right, that was what I was going to ask, is that we just get that out there, and we will continue to populate this. Right now it has, in terms of, again, factual information, there are folders in here that include all the materials that we've provided. I encourage you to kind of go through this now that it's live, that you now have the ability to poke around. And I'm going to put this on the website, on the next agenda, to take some feedback, and then we'll probably form, a communications working group to determine, if this suits our needs, or are there changes that we'd like to see going forward. So,
Do you want to tell everyone the website, the URL?
yes, it's bhbuildingproject.com.
There you go.
Yeah, right.
BHS.
Yeah. Isn't that what I wrote? Said BHS. It's right here at the top. Yeah.
Anyway, everyone, go check it out, please. And we are definitely open to suggestions and try to make it as easy to get around and find information as possible. So again, open to any suggestions. So.
Absolutely. And again, on that site, there is the ability for people to ask questions, which comes directly to Doran Whittier, and we will field those questions and provide answers. And to the extent those need to be shared, we're happy to do that. We have not received any inquiries to date.
Excellent. All right. And any other topics that anyone would like to discuss in the room? Mr. Campbell.
So I know at one of our past meetings, we talked about voting members, and it was decided that, if my recollection is correct, that all members are, but that means that the rest of us need to be sworn in.
That was something I was talking about earlier today. So I know one individual contacted me today and went to see Amy and got sworn in, but anyone who's interested, again, if you're participating, please get sworn in. And, again, most of it's just going to be a hands up vote since it's an advisory committee. So I wanted to make sure we were all inclusive as far as that's concerned. And like I said, anything financial, definitely, just like we did tonight, it will be school committee, so that it's not school committee having a meeting tonight and then voting on it in another week or two. So anyway, please get sworn in.
Does it make sense for me to ask Amy to try and come in a month's time?
I think so.
Because that would probably...
That might make it easier.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can do that. Yep. Yeah, so just for my own edification, I thought when we met last time, it was agreed that it would be discussed at the school committee in a separate meeting. Obviously, either that's happened or there was discussions.
It's an advisory committee,
Right.
so there's really nothing really
Yep.
to vote on at this point because...
Yep. So that's great. So I think that's better. And I will reach out to Amy and see if she can come. And obviously you can go and get sworn in at your leisure, provided Amy's available.
Excellent, thank you. All right. Any public comment? Any hands up? I don't see any. All right. So the next is the next meetings. So we have a meeting on, April 11th?
Yep.
At 6:30. One after that is May 9th, 6:30, and then June 13th at 6:30. If people would like to put those on their calendar.
And just as a reminder, it's second Thursday of each month. I will actually, if not tomorrow, then Monday, I will extend this through the end of the calendar year. So you'll see that come through. So ideally you accept that. And We do have a community meeting, and you'll see in the TAPE schedule, it talks about public engagement. I think part of that happens through visioning, but then there's a broader community meeting that we'd like to have. I think when we discussed this previously, it was all about let's get the designer on board and make sure we know what we want to present. I would like to have a community meeting before the end of the school year. So that's my own personal goal, and I think that's going to work with these guys, and I imagine would be welcome from the local community. So that's the intention, and we'll have more on that at our next meeting.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And I guess we can have a motion to adjourn.
That's my favorite thing to do.
So moved.
I move we adjourn.
So, a second, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I don't think I really need to take a vote, but I'll go ahead. Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Yeah, Ms. Monaco? And Chair is an aye, 400, and we are officially adjourned.